Hello, everyone. Welcome on to Branded. This is the podcast that takes you behind the scenes and beyond the brand. This week is a continuation of what we were talking about last week. So, last week, if you dove into the episode, we were defining your brand identity. We were talking about things like your core values, your brand's mission, your ideal client, all of these parts that really come together to create the identity of your brand. And this week, we're going to really dig a little bit deeper and start to craft your brand story. Your brand story is honestly, it's not something that it's just like nice to have, oh, got my brand story, like I must be legit now. That's not actually the reason for it. It is a conversion powerhouse for your business. So last week we talked about brand identity. This week we're talking about brand story. And next week I'm going to talk to you about how to really implement all of these things into all the places that you show up. So stick with us because these 3 episodes together are a fantastic way for you to really dive into this new year with some newfound clarity and purpose and intention on your business. So I want to start with, why does it even matter having a brand story for your business? What's the purpose of it? So as I mentioned, I mean, yes, it's nice to have, but in the grand scheme of things, it's something that will attract and convert clients for you. It will be doing this behind the scenes. And your brand story, once you have it put together, it'll be on your website, it'll be in all of your copy and your social media post, and it literally runs through. It's like this thread that creates this consistency and this message as like a touch point that people recognize your brand, they come back to it again and again. And also it helps convert them in the first place because they feel trusted. They feel like they know you. They feel like they've just come across a brand that is the thing they've been looking for. And they don't get those emotional connections when your brand story is all over the place, or maybe you just don't even have one. And so people get a little confused about like who you are and what you do. And we don't want that. We want clarity and we want action. So brand story, it is that emotional thread. As I mentioned, it draws the audience in, it builds that trust, and it shows them you're the one that they need for what they want to get done in their own business. And a well-crafted story, it's going to turn that sort of that visual like consumer where they're just scrolling your social feed, they're scrolling your website, it turns it into action. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about 3 parts of how to actually craft your brand story, how to put it together, right? So the 3 parts are, you've got the light bulb moment. Then you have the journey. And lastly, you have the transformation or the ease or that big moment where you took a deep breath and you were like, yes, this is the change that I needed to make in my own business, right? So your brand story, think of it this way. We are going to be making the client sort of the hero of the story, but it's also telling your own journey. So let's start with that light bulb moment. That light bulb moment is going to be something, think back, reflect on something that happened in your life where you just had this nudge. You knew you had to start this journey. What problem was it that you were trying to solve in your own life? Like, were you overweight and you were trying to drop the weight? Was your business spinning out of control and you had no systems in place? Did you have an influx of clients and you had absolutely no pipelines to put them through? And so they're just waiting in the wings to be taken care of. Again, systems, right? So think about, what is the problem that you were trying to solve in your life? And how did it feel to sort of take that first step and discover that this was the path you wanted to take with your brand? So for me, that light bulb moment was when my mom passed away. And this happened in 2020. And I was like the fattest I'd ever been. I have only ever been working corporate 9 to 5 jobs. I'd never done entrepreneurship up until that time. And there was something very stuck about my life. Like I just didn't feel like I was really fully expressing myself, being able to tap into my creativity, feel that sense of purpose like every day when I wake up and do the work that I was doing. It was missing. And after my mom passed away, that was the light bulb moment for me that year, which I know 2020 was tough for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. But for me, it was tough because, I'd already lost my dad previously in 2013, and then I lost my mom in 2020. And I was sort of at this crossroads of like, well, I guess I'm an adult that can just do whatever I want and I don't have to answer to anybody anymore. We always have these sort of subconscious filters that we answer to people and, have these conditioned beliefs that maybe we won't do things because of how someone else will feel about them. And all of a sudden, I just didn't have that restriction on me anymore. Not because I went through my own self growth, but because I had experienced loss. So we all find ourselves on these journeys for different reasons. And mine was loss. And that's just what it is. But my light bulb moment was I want to be able to express my creativity. I desperately need an outlet to express myself authentically. And also, I want to feel really like purpose driven things happening in my day. And so this started just from a sense of like me personally needing this in my life. It wasn't even about starting a business. Before I ever even started Social Jane Media, my journey was getting myself healthy mentally and physically. And I dropped 45 pounds. I started meditating. I started exercising more. I started actually being more intentional about the foods I was eating. So my light bulb moment, it created a domino effect to where I am today. And that's how it will always happen. That is just the nature of life, right? But when you're thinking about your brand story, think about that moment for you. Reflect back on a time when you were like, what was that change maker thing that happened where you said to yourself, enough is enough. I'm making a change and I'm going to do something different and I'm going to follow, my passions. I'm going to tap into more purpose driven work. I'm going to be more intentional about my decisions and my choices because that moment is the moment that everything then started happening, right? All that butterfly effect started happening once you had that light bulb moment. And so I say mine was in 2020 when my mom passed away, which it was in 2020, but it was about 6 months later that I actually had that light bulb moment. It wasn't immediately when she passed away. I mean, I was like in my own grief at that time. I couldn't feel anything else, right? But about 6 months later, I was sitting on the couch. I was alone. Adam was at work. I had just finished eating like Whataburger or something fast food. I don't remember. And I felt really shitty. I was bloated. I was fatigued. I felt super fat. I felt super uninterested in life, basically. And I literally said out loud, I was like, Sarah, get your shit together. Your 30s can be the best decade of your life if you just fucking do something different. I had to like have that heart to heart conversation with myself. Otherwise, nothing was going to change. And so from there, I found myself in a weight loss program that I really enjoyed that aligned with like how I wanted to go through that journey. And from there, I started to discover myself again. My creativity had room to like bubble up to the top and express itself. And that's when I started to recognize these opportunities of, wow, I could make a business out of this, and this. Because not only am I good at it, people seem to be receiving it really well, but I also really love doing it. So then I found myself into the second part of the brand story, the journey. So my journey started with network marketing, and I don't mention that necessarily in my like brand story that I put out there, but for me, I know that's where it started. And so much of what I have learned and what I know and how I operate my business today is because I saw the network marketing way of doing business. And there's some really beautiful parts of it. And then there's some parts that I really don't like. And I found myself that slowly but surely, I sort of edged myself out of that industry and not entirely. I still consume products that I like. But I found myself in this really beautiful place of doing work that brings me so much joy, it is so purpose driven. Like I quite literally, every time I log onto the computer, I'm helping someone else make their business more magical, make more money, all of the things. Therefore, I'm also making more money, right? Like it's the nature of my business. When I work on their businesses and nurture their businesses, mine also gets nurtured and expands. And so the journey for me was recognizing those opportunities along the way of my own self discovery, that there were moments of like, oh, this is the creativity and purpose driven feeling that I was looking for back in 2020 when I was like yelling at myself to get my shit together. So it wasn't actually, selling weight loss products that gave me that sense of purpose. And so that's why I kept looking. I kept searching and knowing that that feeling that I was searching for was out there. Like it's always out there. It just may not be the thing you're doing right now. And so that's where my journey was. And I had to ask myself like what's something that I can commit to daily. I can bring innovation and ideas to the table, and I can sort of have that experience of what I'm doing today is making an impact for someone else right now. So if you think about how I'll give you a little example of like, let's say there's a, a consultant. Sorry, I lost the word. Let's say there's a consultant who is always emphasizing that they have full transparency with all of their clients, right? That's like one of their biggest values in their business is that they have full transparency. They let you see all their projects. They keep all of their communication with their clients open and honest, like nothing is on lockdown. So if you have a consultant who's emphasizing that they have full transparency with every client, then this essentially reassures clients that they're working with an honest person, right? So transparency translates to the honesty. Authenticity will translate to you're actually speaking to a real human, right? Connection translates to someone who values a person to person, communication. You might find yourself having more phone calls versus emails with someone who enjoys having, communication as one of their values. So think about in your brand story what that journey looks like. Show how your core values have shaped the decisions that you've made. So, because my core values are authenticity, connection, ease, purpose, potential, all of those things are worked into the like all the things that my brand actually does. Right. So the authenticity piece, I really showcase on my social media and even on my website, and especially on this podcast, because there is absolutely no filter that's happening here. Right. I say what I want, I say what I'm feeling. And that's the authenticity piece. Right. So when it comes to the connection piece, that's me having real conversations with people. My brand, like, yes, there's automations where there should be some automations, but I don't spend my time making sure every piece of my business is automated. That's not what it's there for. It's there to connect with people and to get to know their businesses. And then the ease and the potential and the purpose, I mean, all of that is worked in through the decisions that I've made by having certain softwares that I operate with, having certain times of day that I really make intentional for my business versus my clients' businesses. Like I want ease in my own business. I don't just want to create that for somebody else. And so you have to understand with your brand story, your client, they are the hero of the story. But in the end, like you're most well equipped to help the person that you were yesterday, the day before. So think about these things. And that's why your brand story will incorporate them. And that's why I told you about mine. And then the third part of this is the transformation, right? That sense of ease that you find sharing success stories from clients that you've had, right? What was their challenge before they met you? How did your service or product make a difference for them? And let me give you a little example. So let's say there's like a designer who highlights a small business owner who's like skyrocketed their business, but it's specifically because of rebranding their business, right? All of their visual identity. It demonstrates that there's those tangible results, right? So I do this periodically. I should do it more, honestly. And it's something that I've become more aware of that I don't necessarily talk about my clients' wins as much as I should, because honestly, they happen like all the time. But it's sort of in passing, right? It's in a text message conversation. It's in a quick little DM where someone's like, holy shit, this was amazing. Thank you so much for putting this together for me. I couldn't have done it without you. And I'm like, you're welcome. That's great. And I don't screenshot it or I don't think about it. I'm just so grateful in the moment and like receiving it that I don't even think about utilizing it for my own marketing. And that's somewhere I'm falling short in my own business. But I've got awareness of it and working on it, right? But that third piece, that ease, that, oh, you just take a big deep breath and you see the transformation that's happened. That's important, right? It closes the loop, it closes the circle on your brand story. And so, in the end, your brand story, it's a powerful tool that's going to connect and convert clients for you. And honestly, they're more likely to trust you when there's a brand story that they can follow, right? If you want to see an example of my current, like my brand story, I just did this work myself. Like 2 weeks ago, I was going through and just doing some journaling and using these kinds of prompts where it's like, okay, what was that light bulb moment for me? What was the thing that made me go, okay, I'm turning stuff around. I'm going to do something different. And then next, I thought about what was the journey? What did it look like? Right? What were those things that I was struggling with? And what kind of solutions did I find? And how did my own values really come into play when solving them? Right? And then, of course, the transformation. So, pinned at the top of my social media profile on Facebook and Instagram, you'll see my brand story. And it starts with before I started Social Jane Media, I was just a girl climbing the corporate ladder, working a 9 to 5. And up until 2020, I was totally okay with that. Honestly, it hadn't even crossed my mind that I wanted something different. But I'm so glad that I didn't ignore that feeling that I had, that it was time to shift. It was time to step into a new phase of my life, that my 9 to 5 job, like it's gotten me so far. And honestly, they're still so good to me. And I love the people that I work with. And I'll be forever grateful. Honestly, I have some of the best relationships in my life have come from working this 9 to 5 job. Period. Best friends, relationships, friendships, like it's been so beautiful. But when I had that nudge to do something else and do it for me, I listened to it. So when you're crafting your brand story, think about that light bulb moment for you. Think about the journey you had to take and how your values that you established from the last podcast episode, how do those integrate into the journey that you were on? And then wrap it all up in a pretty bow with the transformation, the ease, what it is that you do and how you help people, right? At the end of my brand story, I say very simply that I help people, design websites that reflect their true vision and establish systems that help them focus more on what they love. Period. That's what I do, right? Welcome. And so this is going to conclude today's episode. I wanted it to be short and sweet. It's a little bit of a do a little homework, right, on the back end, but it's so worth it when you can reassess your brand and really like give it the attention that it deserves. And not to mention that storytelling in and of itself is like the OG form of marketing. So you doing this for your business is only going to help you up level, period. So come back next week. We're going to be talking about how to use your brand story within your marketing, all the different places that you can actually view it and see it. I might even do a little bit of a screen share. I don't know. I haven't decided yet because this is podcast. Some people just listen. But if you are interested in maybe poking around, check out my Facebook profile or IG profile pinned at the top. It's just a picture of me, and that's my brand story. Go to my website, socialjanemedia.com, read the website. You'll see that there are so many sentences and words speckled throughout that website that are my brand story. You can repurpose this information, and that's why it's so incredibly useful and valuable and smart to spend this time on your business, because the work that you do today to craft your brand story, it can become so much of the website copy that you have and all of the different things. I don't want to get too ahead of myself. That's next week. We're going to talk about how to really use your brand across platforms. And honestly, I would love to hear your brand stories. If you already have one that you're like, I got it, it's on lock, I would love to hear it, because honestly, I'm an educator. Like, I love education. I love learning things. I love teaching things. I would love to hear about your brand story. Or if you have questions and you're like, I'm totally freaking lost, I don't know what to do here, drop a comment or send me a DM and we can chat about it. But this was really good. And I think that between last week, this week, and next week, this is going to be really powerful to help you move into the new year and really hit that up level that you've been looking for. So I'll see you next week. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to Branded, the podcast. Please rate and review. And for more information, visit socialjanemedia.com. I'll see you soon.